Distinguished guests, Mayor Cabaldon, Matt Mahood, who runs the chamber, and Mike McKeever, who's the executive director of SACOG, all with us today. Today's presser really is just to highlight cap to cap and what's coming up later this week and going into next week. So let me just start by thanking my three guests for coming out today. And really what we're going to talk about is how important it is for us to work together as a region. If we're talking about going back to Washington, which we will, we're talking about how we can collaborate, how we can align our interests, how we can make sure that we get our fair share of dollars from Washington that we can bring back to Sacramento, and at the end of the day, put people to work and stimulate our economy. So again, I'd like to congratulate Matt and the Metro Chamber for putting on cap-to-cap trips for 40 years. This is his 40th year. Cap to cap, we're Sacramento, the capital of California, 7th largest economy in the world, partnering and going back to Washington, which is the capital in D.C. And this Metro Chamber delegation that goes out is going to have 300 people this year, and typically it's the largest delegation in the country. So it gives us a competitive advantage. It gives us a chance to lobby people in Washington in ways that I think have proved fruitful in the past. One of the things that I've learned, this is my third cap to cap. I've been back twice as mayor and one time while I was campaigning. And one of the things that was very important to me is a cap to cap is one time that you can lobby people in Washington, but the lobbying has to continue. So I see partly my role as being a person that goes back here every other month and continues on the good work of cultivating relationships back in Washington. I won't go over the agenda. I'll let Matt talk about what's going to happen this year when we're back there. Let me say this, I was back there in January and I had been to the White House a couple times, and one of the things that President Obama told a group of mayors, I believe Mayor Cabaldon was there as well, he said, look, our priorities from the Obama administration are going to tie to three things. Number one, regional collaboration and regional economies. Cities that can work together in a regional manner are going to benefit and be able to leverage resources from Washington in ways that they have not seen in the past. Their commitment in terms of the Obama administration is kind of interagency collaboration. Typically, you just saw the agencies in Washington all work in silos, and they're going to try to break down those barriers. So that was one. Number two, sustainability. And this is what you'll hear us talk a little bit about today, how important sustainability is in terms of our communities and working together. And then lastly, the Obama administration talked about opportunity neighborhoods. And I think Sacramento is primed to take advantage of all three of those particular initiatives. When I left the White House in this past January, we came back and we had a Region 9 summit, and that essentially brought together the Department of Transportation at the federal level, EPA at the federal level, and HUD. And all three of those being in Sacramento, it was clear to them that we as a region are doing things that other regions have not done in the past. So they were excited about that. We had a follow-up meeting, which I'm sure either Mayor Cabaldon or Mike McKeever will talk about, but really looking at partnership for sustainable communities and what we need to be doing here, which is essentially aligning our priorities with the priorities in Washington. And there's a neat way to do it, that we can determine what our priorities are, but if we can figure out how to align them with Washington's priorities, then we should be positioned very, very strategically to take advantage of what's coming out of Washington. Again, at the end of the day, it's about us getting our fair share. It's about us getting more resources so we can put people to work and stimulate our economy in Sacramento. So again, I want to thank everyone who came out today, and I will close with this before I invite our next speaker up, that if you look at what we've done as a region last year, we were able to get over $200 million of stimulus funding for Sacramento. That is a significant amount of money. That is our fair share, but we want to go back and continue to get our fair share, and even more. We were able to save or create 95,000 jobs in our region last year. So again, it just shows you how important our efforts are collectively going back to Washington to lobby on behalf of our region. And it has to be something ongoing. Cap to cap is a start. It's not just once. It has to be cultivating relationships throughout the year and beyond. And you guys have all heard this, a squeaky wheel gets the grease. So my job is to go back and make sure we're squeaking and shaking trees and doing everything that we can to get all that we can here in Sacramento. So next speaker I want to invite up, he's from across the river. He's my compadre and patriot in many ways. The mayor of West Sacramento, Chris Cabaldon. He is a person that I've known for many years. He understands environmental, transportation policy, neighborhood issues. He's got a little economics background, understands education, and we find ways to collaborate even though he's on the other side of the river now. You've done a little more than I've done in terms of developing your riverfront, so we need to catch up. So if we get some dollars for the river, they got to come to this side.
Oh, okay. My turn now.
Chris Cabaldon.
Thank you, Mayor. We did actually both work on the other side of the river for a while. We both are 1988 graduates of the University of California at Berkeley as well, which is not on this side of the river. This is the 40th Cap-to-Cap trip, but in a lot of ways it could be the most important one. 2 weeks ago we held the big anniversary summit for the Blueprint, the Sacramento Regional Blueprint, which sort of shook the foundations of the country and California around strategies for blending transportation, land use, air quality, climate change into really powerful regional action that makes a difference. And it has become the foundation for the Obama administration's livability initiatives and a new program called the Sustainable Communities Initiative. And we see this as a real opportunity to position Sacramento, the entire region, for significant investment of federal funds and for significant federal help in not just turning around our local economies, but really bringing to bear the real potential that Sacramento has as a region. So beyond just transportation, land use, and air quality, looking at issues around public health, around public schools, around economic development and jobs creation, around developing the green economy. These are all themes that are supported in the administration in Washington that we are very strong on and committed on here in the Sacramento region. So this trip is about going back, as we do each year, making our push for key projects around flood control, roads and bridges and transit, public health, our universities, and other projects. But it's also around making sure that Sacramento is the national leader and continues to be seen as the national leader in issues around sustainability and the extension of sustainability to real economic development and social equity. So we're excited about the trip, and we know that the region is going to be strongly behind us and that the administration is going to be standing with us as well. We are developing a coalition of partners throughout the region to do just this work, to really take the Sacramento region's strong success in sustainability and extend it to turning around tough public schools, and to extend it to improving public health and fighting obesity, and most importantly, extending it to turning around some of our most troubled neighborhoods and areas of the communities throughout our region that need job development and business growth. So this is going to be a very, very important trip. And much of the work that we've been doing flows directly from the Blueprint, but also from Mayor Johnson's efforts throughout the region to bring together mayors and other civic, business, and local officials around new sets of issues that weren't at the regional scale before. Issues like homelessness, volunteerism, civic engagement, that folks used to say, oh no, that's not a regional issue. They are regional issues, and I think that leadership has been heard in Washington, D.C. as a further signal of the Sacramento region's commitment to regional approaches to solving real problems on behalf of the people that we represent. So this is going to be a powerful trip. We expect to come back with some real resources and some real commitments, but also a changed congressional and presidential approach to a lot of these initiatives that's going to make Sacramento really the national leader in providing sustainable economic recovery for our communities. And I'd like now to introduce the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, which sponsors and hosts the Cap-to-Cap trip, Mr. Matt Mahood.
Okay. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Mayor Johnson and Mayor Cabaldon for having me here today. This year's Cap-to-Cap trip, we're in our 40th anniversary of this program. It's an important program for our entire region, and it is really one of our region's competitive advantages. Like Christopher and Kevin has said, my peers from around the country at other chambers of commerce are jealous of this private-public partnership that we have created and really developed an expertise at. In fact, I'm often called by other chamber executives and asked how we do cap-to-cap. I tell them about the policy teams that we put together, the 6 to 9 months to 1 year planning timeline. I give them a copy of the binder that contains all of our policies and our committees and our structure and itinerary, and I send it to them, I give them a copy, and then I never hear from them again because it sends shivers down their spine